First of all, let me give you a brief idea about the Association of Arab Universities. The Association of Arab Universities is the platform of the Arab universities and higher education stakeholders for the region, for the Arab region, of course. Its membership includes more than 100 Arab universities, and it was established actually in 1964 by a decree from the League of Arab States Council. Its strategic plan for the period 2023-2030 focused on contributing to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly those related to inclusive and equitable equality education, gender equality, and women empowerment in education, fostering decent employment opportunities and innovation to the youth of the region, keeping abreast of developments, achieving global standards in higher education and its outputs, building the administrative capacity of universities, scientific and academic internationalization, and equality enhancement. Based on its strategic plan for the period 2030, the association led and working on multiple programs and projects, most notably the Arab University Ranking, the Arab Qualifications Framework, the Arab Impact Factors for the Arab scientific journals, the Quality Assurance Program in higher education, and lots more. Furthermore, the association has concluded a set of partnership and cooperation agreements with many Arab and international academic parties. The association has also initiated several periodical conferences, symposiums, and forums in cooperation with counterpart associations in China, Europe, Malaysia, Turkey, Russia, Germany, and more others. In addition, the association has also participated actively on multiple Erasmus Plus projects focused on establishing qualifications frameworks in institutional management and student and staff exchange. Well, if we would like to have a look at the higher education in the Arab world, the higher education in the Arab world is currently facing serious challenges with reference to globalization and educational open door policy. Higher education is undoubtedly central to economic and political development. Thus, the quality of performance of higher education determines the future and status of the Arab world in the academic map of the world. The 22 Arab countries have a combined population of around 432 million, makes up to 5.5% of the overall world's population, with over half under 25 years of age. Universities in the Arab states vary greatly in terms of age, size, quality, program diversity, modernity, and funding. There are about 1,200 public and private higher education institutions in the Arab world, with an enrollment of 13 million students and about 450,000 academic staff. The private higher education institutes accommodate about 30% of the student population. There are dozens of foreign universities or branches of those foreign universities, especially in some Arab Gulf countries, and nowadays there are a number of them in Egypt. Globally, student mobility has grown in the last 20 years. Currently, over 5 million higher education students study outside their countries. About 530,000 of them, about 10% of them, are from Arab countries, which also hosts over 135,000 international students. Such mobility is based on the individual level, and there is hardly an organized or structured program to support it. The ratio of students to faculty members in the Arab universities is about 1 to 36, while it is in the United Kingdom, for example, is about 1 to 15, and the United States about 1 to 12. Globally, it is 1 to 25. The ideal ratio, as experts say, is 1 to 15, between 15 to 20. With regard to enrollment rates in the Arab universities, they are still low in general, as the enrollment rate at the Arab level is 30 individuals for every 1,000 citizens. In developed countries, this ratio is 40 people for every 1,000 citizens. This is according to the Human Development Report for 2019. The percentage of households with internet access at home and a computer in the Arab countries, according to the Telecommunication Union in 2019, is 51.9%. There are different education systems in the Arab region. For example, Morocco, Mauritania, Tunisia, Algeria apply to a great extent the French system, and the other Arab countries are ranging between the American and the British systems. It relates to the history of the country. Many Arab countries had rejected online education in the past. This has left many universities unprepared, as digital learning has generally been marginalized, unrecognized, and suspended in many Arab countries whose educational systems still prefer traditional face-to-face teaching methods. The Arab region countries can be categorized into 4 different groups with regards to their progress towards the digital economy, despite the economic and cultural diversity. The most developed group is the high-income countries of the GCC, the Gulf countries, of course. These states have high internet penetration, high literacy rates, and in most cases, relatively low youth unemployment. The second group includes Jordan and Lebanon, with higher internet penetration due in part to their compact urban nature. And the third is the rural, lower middle income countries of North Africa, Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia. These countries have GDP levels similar to their cousins, but literacy rates are lower, and the total of 100 million citizens are unconnected. The final group includes countries affected by conflict, namely Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, Sudan, and Libya, and least developed countries, Comoros, Djibouti, Mauritania, and Somalia. The QS has released its new ranking of the top 1,000 universities in the world for the year 2021, where the top 10 Arab universities are ranked between the 143 and 65th globally. It is worth noting that Saudi Arabia universities topped the first and the second places among the Arab countries participating in the classification. Well, there are a lot of challenges which facing the Arab higher education. Some of them, I'll say it in brief for the time. One is, if we talk about the increased demand for higher education. Actually, this is a major point here. There is a great eagerness, intense crowding, and an overwhelming desire to enroll in university education in most Arab countries. We have this line of basic education output, actually, and this can be seen in several countries. There is a lack of human and material capabilities. There is a limited job opportunities, and consequently the increasing rates of unemployment among young graduates, which increased their level of frustration and raised the level of educational laxness among them, and promoted some of them to obtain higher university degrees so that they can pass the time and in the hope of obtaining best job opportunities. The dominant of academic education, and this is a major point here, increase in student interest in academic education and the reluctance to pursue technical education. Then we have maybe the weakness in keeping pace with the rapid technological developments, and this is, of course, after COVID-19 is a very important point. Well, there's a major point here, which is a poor scientific research due to lack of financial capabilities. Less than 1% of the national income GDP is expanded as they spend less than 1%. The highly centralized administration, and of course, one of the major points here is the brain drain of the faculty and the scientists who are working in the Arab universities and research centers. If we look at what happened after COVID-19, I should note that universities globally have made extraordinary contributions during the pandemic, from developing vaccines and providing health care to ensuring educational continuity and engagement with the community. The pandemic is more than a public health crisis with severe economic implications. The outbreak of the coronavirus, that is called COVID-19 pandemic, has affected human life worldwide. Many people have lost their jobs or suffered of income cut. Unemployment rates have increased across major economies. COVID-19 disrupted all aspects of life, including public health, education, companies and factories, traveling and tourism, hospitality, shops, trading, etc. Many countries reacted to the pandemic concerns by imposing closure of borders, airports, seaports, entertainment facilities, and educational institutions. It was reported that the global economy struck by 4.4% in 2020 and is considered as the worst since the Great Depression of 1930. One of the most prominent sectors that were highly affected by COVID-19 pandemic was the education sector in all its primary, secondary, and university aspects alike. As a result, nearly 2 billion students were affected at the level of the world in this crisis, including 100 million Arab students. Of course, there are so many lessons which we learned from COVID-19, among them that we need to educate citizens in an interconnected world. We need to unlock technology to deliver education, the importance of having up-to-date technology. We need teaching life skills needed for future. We need to redefining the role of the educator. We need to recognize the value of international mobility and partnerships within higher education, recognize the value of community, the value and importance of communication. We need to improve crisis management readiness. We need to enhance the digital infrastructure and the shift to more blended and online learning would increase the opportunities for the online mobility, both in terms of incoming and outgoing mobility for students as well as academics. So there are so many things which we learned from this pandemic. COVID-19, of course, helped colleges and universities to demonstrate their public good contributions through the relevant training, dissemination of scientific evidence, and direct help to government and local communities in combating the pandemic. Important changes in higher education at Arab universities triggered by the pandemic that may stay beyond the pandemic. The Arab institutions believe that COVID-19 triggered changes in higher education that may stay beyond the pandemic, including online and blended learning, increasing digital skills of academic staff and leaders, and usage of technology. The Arab institutions believe that some changes triggered by the epidemic will unfortunately have a negative effects on higher education beyond the epidemic, such as decreasing in student commitment to attending physical classes and engaging with academic staffs and peers, decreased international students and collaboration, decreased practical experience of students, and decreased learning outcomes as a result of conducting teaching on video platforms instead of using proper online platforms, decreased students' trust in the national educational system, and decreased community contribution. There will remain number of unprepared academic staff and students in dealing with online mandatory skills, and increased, of course, financial challenging. This was some ideas which I wanted to share with you and I am looking forward for a successful and fruitful conference for all of us, inshallah. And thank you very much again for inviting me for this very important conference.